All right, guys, George Stoia here with Sooner Scoop alongside Andy Staples of On3. We're going to talk a little OU football. Andy, just want to get your thoughts. What was your thoughts on last year's season? Obviously a disappointing year for Brent Venables in year one. What was kind of your reaction to that first season?
It was not great. And that's the thing. I'm not worried about Brent Venables' ability to stock a roster and get them ready to go to the SEC. He was very much part of that at Clemson, and obviously they're not in the SEC, but they had to recruit against Georgia and against Alabama, and then they had to build a roster that could compete with Alabama and Ohio State if they saw them in the playoff. So they know exactly body type-wise what they're looking for, player, what they're looking for. I wanted to see how was he as a CEO, how does that work on the field, and the results were pretty disappointing last year, but I'm willing to give him some grace because this is his first time doing that. It's his first year. You're in a new situation. But some of the things like not having a backup quarterback ready for the Texas game, not having an offense that could function at all with a backup quarterback is unforgivable. And then you look at the defense, which that is his side of the ball. I do know it's complicated. I know it takes time to learn. But when you've got receivers running wide open, clearly people missing assignments or miscommunicating, that has to get patched up, and it didn't get patched up very quickly. So they've got to make sure that gets fixed now. The players know the defense better going into the season. I would imagine that's going to happen in year two. And then as far as the offense goes, I think probably they feel better with what they've got behind Dylan Gabriel now that Jackson Arnold's there. But they got to make sure if something happens to Dylan Gabriel, can you function?
Right.
Are you ready? And look, Jeff Lebby's been around for a long time. He knows how to get quarterbacks ready. It's just it was so weird watching that last year because it should never happen like that.
Yeah. Obviously, they brought in a lot of guys in the transfer portal, bringing a top 10 recruiting class. What are the expectations for Oklahoma this year?
I expect them to be one of the best teams in the Big 12, and this is an interesting one because this is the first time in a while, and I know everybody looks at the recruiting rankings and says, well, Texas recruits just as well as – no, Oklahoma has developed NFL players better than Texas for the last 10 years. It's obvious. You can tell by the draft. This might be the first time in a long time that Texas really has had more NFL talent than Oklahoma has. So they are going to be kind of the underdog in that deal. And then you've got the situation where all of the teams that are staying in the Big 12 and the 4 new teams that are coming into the Big 12 are going to want to send Oklahoma out with a loss. Yeah. So obviously everybody would get up for Oklahoma before. It's going to be even more heightened now because they want to say, well, we're sending it. I think about going to Nippert against Cincinnati, Cincinnati's first Big 12 game. How much of a feather in their cap would that be to beat Oklahoma in your one and only time playing them as a conference opponent?
Yeah. What is your expectations just for the Big 12 in general? I know that obviously there's a lot of talk about Texas. They're the favorite to win the conference. You just mentioned you're high on Oklahoma. I mean, what do you expect in this year?
It should be a Texas and Oklahoma affair, but the K-State repeating, I'm certainly thinking about that because when you are that disciplined, that good, and you bring back that much experience on your offensive line, including some real NFL talent, like Cooper Beebe could have gone out this past year, that is a big deal. Most teams don't have that. Most teams don't have an experienced quarterback behind the line like that returning. You say, oh, they lost Deuce Vaughn. I'm not as worried about them losing Deuce Vaughn because I think they're going to be able to open holes for whoever's getting the ball, and they got Trayshawn Ward from Florida State. So he was pretty good. It just was a matter of he was facing a backlog in Tallahassee. So I think Kansas State could be really good this year. I think Texas should be the best team in the conference. But this has been Texas's problem since 2009. They don't win the games they're supposed to win. They lose to Texas Tech or they lose to Oklahoma State. Texas Tech's another one, by the way, that I think could be really interesting. Everybody's really excited about Joe McGuire. They love the way he recruits. But let's see what it looks like on the field because at the end of last season, they were getting better and better as Oklahoma unfortunately learned the hard way.
Yeah. Lastly, we're here at SEC Media Days. I got to ask you, we're here obviously to find out, is OU SEC ready? Yeah. I know we can't really answer that question until they start playing the games, but what do you expect from Oklahoma in the SEC?
I think Oklahoma's going to be fine in the SEC. I mean, let's look at the history of Oklahoma football. There was basically one down period after Barry Switzer left, so kind of mid-'90s to late 90s till Bob showed up. That's it. Yeah. they've been really, really good the rest of the time. There's only one program in college football that has been more consistently good, and that's Ohio State. Everybody else has had these roller coaster dips, and Alabama's here today. Remember before Nick Saban took the Alabama job, people were like, he's crazy to take this job. Those people are nuts. You can't win consistently there because they're crazy. No. They've had their dips. Now they're up. Georgia's had their dips. Now they're up. Oklahoma has not really had those dips. And that's why I don't worry about Oklahoma, because we say all the stuff about Brent Venables, what needs to happen. If that doesn't happen, they will get rid of him and find someone who can do that. Yeah. Oklahoma has won a lot of games. It doesn't seem to matter what conference they're in. They'll continue to win a lot of games. It's up to the current staff to make sure they're still with them when they're doing the winning of a lot of games.
Yeah. Well, Andy, thanks for talking with us. I know you got a new YouTube show out. Where can people find that?
So it's on the On3 YouTube channel. You can watch that. It premieres every night at 7 p.m. Central, but you can watch it on demand anytime you want. And it's also available on every podcast platform. So if you want to just hear me. If you don't want to have to look at me, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcast, wherever you get your podcasts, we're there.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks, Andy. He's the best in college football. Thanks for watching, guys, and make sure to check out more content on Soonerscoop.com.